questions for the panel on obviously the satellite networks or Wi-Fi? Question here, please.
Question for Thomas. Maybe I misunderstood, but you're saying let's deploy Wi-Fi. It's just CapEx. There is a seamless attach possibility. But then when you are talking about roaming and interconnecting between nations, you're proposing the same players to, let's say, attach to another international infrastructure like the carriers that are doing the same stuff for the mobile operators. If that's the solution, I mean, it's just a duplication of the same, of what is already existing. So, well, I don't understand how that will fit.
I think it should be on.
I really appreciate the question because you touched kind of a multi-layer, concept in terms of how do we see international attachment to wireless networks, even from a GSMA standpoint. So maybe just going back in the day, so GSMA also decided to include a Wi-Fi annex on the mobile operator roaming agreement. So if you are negotiating a roaming contract, you have an annex that you can add. And the way those contracts were being applied was really on an offline matter. So if I go there with my AT&T SIM card, I came here to Portugal, maybe I have an agreement with one of the local operators. If I have the annex, they will give me a username and password type approach, and I can just use it and log in. So that has evolved. So kind of, you don't have just to sign bilateral agreements now. So you have an agreement with the global federation. So you do your job, you just connect your network. If you are a provider in Portugal, this pavilion connects to the federation, and the AT&T customer can come here, and if this venue complies with the requirements, the customer would be able to connect. What AT&T is using? So he's using the backend that they already use from the mobile world. So they have like a backbone that does a translation from SS7 signaling to IPX. So that's what is used in the mobile world, and they kind of converged with some new interfaces. So they open up a bit their roaming strategy to the world. Instead of being a closed system, IPX to IPX, SS7 signaling, they just decided, okay, let's allow some radius connections to just talk with our HLR and HSS in a seamless way. So that's why if you are an AT&T customer today going to Tokyo in Japan, that they deployed open roaming, boom, they will just connect if the policy applies. So maybe that's the angle. In terms of the overlap, there will always be some overlap when you go abroad if you have both cellular and Wi-Fi. And there is a big issue, and I think maybe Daniel will relate to this on the satellites, that the device vendors are making most of the decisions whether to put people on Wi-Fi or cellular. So you have on Apple and Samsung Wi-Fi Assist, Connect Assist, and they are making most of those decisions. But in the end, AT&T also developed a policy on their backend system that they never connect the user to Wi-Fi if the quality is not good enough. So they have a real-time metrics. 5G is better, keep it on 4G. Oh, sorry, 4G is better, keep it on 4G. If Wi-Fi is better on that location, switch it to Wi-Fi. So, on the access side, yes.
So if you could just wait for 1 second, and I'm speaking the microphone.
So I perfectly understand the AT&T case, but AT&T is an operator, okay? And so it's playing the game as an operator. My understanding of what you were proposing was, Wi-Fi is the only access for the future. Let's create another overlaying infrastructure to directly connect Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi. And that's a duplication of the existing carrier structure, because when the numbers of the endpoints increase so much, you need a layered architecture, which is exactly the national, international, and so forth. So it seemed to me that what you are looking at in the long term is a duplication of the existing infrastructure.
Okay.
While in the case of the AT&T, it's just another access to add to the mobile world.
No, yeah, I got probably better the point now, and I must say, from the Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi standpoint, you are right. So if there is, Tokyo Wi-Fi that is better than any cellular coverage in a certain location, and then you go from city to city, you come inside the venue, inside the stadium, yes, maybe people will stay some more time in Wi-Fi. But probably the message to mobile operators is, look, you own the identity. So why should not be an operator putting you on that Wi-Fi network rather than the user downloading Tokyo Wi-Fi profile? So if you go and you search Tokyo Wi-Fi profile, you get an identity from Tokyo. So it's Bruno at Tokyo.gp that is connecting when I go there, when I go all over the world. So I think we see it as an offload thing. So if you have the user, you can put it on the best networks. If you don't, maybe they will start to churn and just use those type of initiatives, and then satellite comes, then IoT also comes.
Is that okay? Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? Yes. Here, to your right, Roberto.
So keeping the same topic to Bruno, I guess you heard about WeRoam, in the past. So Comphone was managing a hub, facilitating the authentication between GSM networks to Wi-Fi networks using the SIM card. So the idea was exactly to give the end user that possibility to have the authentication over the SIM card and use a Wi-Fi network, whatever. AT&T was using it, by the way. At the end, we had to shut down the hub because the end user was not using it.
Yeah.
Because instead of paying the original HPMN, they're just going for the free Wi-Fi access. Did that change, Bruno, in your perspective?
Yeah, so yeah, Comphone was, and still is one of the innovators in the space. I would say two things changed. So one thing is the UE, the device support. I think all these roaming offload started back in 2003, laptops connecting to airports, and let's get some roaming between laptops, people going from airport to airport. And that was a very offline use case. So now the devices, off the shelf, since 2013, they have something called PassPoints that is coming with every single iPhone, every single Samsung Android. So the user himself, via carrier bundle, an operator can just provision a profile and it will just work. So that's what T-Mo, AT&T, Verizon, Telkom Indonesia did, that they provision all the user base, millions of users. And the day after, those guys were going to Home Depot, Walmart, and doing lots of offloads. So that's one part. The other part, the complexity of offload on the days of a roaming hub, it's also from a venue standpoint. So imagine, Mobile World Congress. To make roaming work with the mobile operators, in the past, you had to configure every single PLMN ID. So we have 800 mobile operators, but then imagine in India, each mobile operator has 30 PLMN IDs. So every single IT manager and CIO would have to configure maybe a list of 1,000 codes on their network for it to work with the world. So what we proposed is basically dynamic peer discovery. You just give one code. It's kind of the identity in the cloud. And I come to this venue, I go to the other venue, I go to private 5G enterprise, I go to Wi-Fi 7 network, and it will just discover dynamically who is the roaming partner. And it does a tunnel, and the authentication flows. So that is kind of the novelty, and why it's catching up a bit more now.
Right. But my question was more on the end user. At the end, me,
Yeah.
As an end user, I always have the option to use my provider or to go to the free Wi-Fi, right? So, okay, not secure or whatsoever, but most of the users, they don't really care if it's secure or not at the end, right? And the problem we faced with WeRoam was exactly that final decision made by the end user. Okay, I go free. Yeah. Are operators now including, let's say, if I'm a customer, of Swisscom, if I buy a data package and if I go to the US, is now the access to Wi-Fi somehow integrated into my package and then it's for free, then it's great. I don't have to choose. I use what Swisscom is maybe imposing to me, but I'm fine with that because I paid or I feel it's for free. Exactly. Is there any change on the end user? Because in our industry, you have so many complex technical solutions to solve commercial problems, right? One of the complex solutions was WeRoam at that time to solve a commercial problem, and we have seen then the end users going to the free access. So is this now changing on your perspective from, I don't know, maybe the mobile operators here are also having something to say on that?
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Maybe I have two charts in my mind that we can just liaise with you afterwards. But basically, again, I'm picking up on AT&T, but the way they presented is they had of the curve of their roaming revenues with their international cellular data packages. And then they decided, as I mentioned, to provision the millions of users with carrier bundle to support seamless offloads with Passpoint and Open Roaming, and the curve went up. So what they did is they were charging $50 for you to go abroad and use whatever amount of gigabytes. But then they said, instead of paying 50, you pay, I think it's 70, and you get the same amount of data, but I give you, instead of 5 gigabytes of cellular, I give you 15 gigabytes of Wi-Fi abroad. And they were able to upsell lots of those customers. So that's the trend, the way I would see it happening, now that there is massive footprint worldwide. Then they also do some revenue share. From the user standpoint, I think it's education, because in our world, we were used to get out of the plane and switch mobile data off. Now that is changing a bit. So in Europe, of course, regulation made it easier. You are concerned if you go outside Europe. But I do see more and more people, for instance, airports, they're supporting in the US Passpoint and Open Roaming, and you just go and you are connected. So take the phone out of your pocket, connected here, coming from here. But it's a good discussion, and I hope Comphone looks into it again, and we come up with a solution.
Any other questions from the audience? I've actually got one question for Dan. For years, I think Bruno will agree to this, hopefully, is that the MNOs have really struggled to understand Wi-Fi, and they've kind of looked at Wi-Fi. Is this complementary to us? Is this a competition? Should we embrace it? Should we fight against it? And they've gone through various phases where one season it's like, oh yeah, we must play in this, and the other season it's like, oh no, they might be stepping on our toes. And I think when something new like satellite comes as well, it's like most MNOs will be, are they going to replace us? Are we going to, or do we just need one or a few satellites in the space and then we are obsolete? What would you say to them, and what is your position on how is it complementary for MNOs or,
Yeah, so from a link perspective, we're a dumb cell tower in space. We're a really smart cell tower in space, but essentially, we're just a cell tower in space. And so we need MNO spectrum. We don't have spectrum. We can't connect customers. I grew up in the Sprint wholesale world. A lot of you may know that. So retail customers are very difficult sometimes. They call care. They want to change plans. Wholesale is pretty easy, and I'm an easy guy, so it's a lot easier for us. So our go-to-market is 100% through MNOs. It's your spectrum. It's 100% complementary to your coverage. Our PLM ID will be the network of last resort. So you'll go down Wi-Fi or whatever you can. If you're in the city, these are all high-class problems, right? But you're going to get to a point where there's no connectivity. I showed you a couple. I could show you those animations from space, real data, thousands and millions of cell phones and devices trying to connect because they don't have a terrestrial in the most populated areas. So, when your user goes down and it gets to the end and there's no connectivity, before it gets that Apple SOS, it'll get to your network, your cell tower in space. So we look like a roaming agreement to you, but it's your spectrum. It's an MNO spectrum. It's MNO customers. It'll be interesting to see, and that's what our go-to-market is. That's what AST's go-to-market is. It'll be interesting to see what SpaceX go-to-market is. They've got some partnerships with some of the larger carriers, but yet they filed for their own spectrum in lots of different countries, and they have a direct-to-consumer, play with Starlink, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But certainly from a link perspective, we're just dumb cell tower in space, and it flies over Portugal, and we'd love to turn it on, but we're only going to turn it on where and when the operator wants us to turn it on, and it's a success-based model. So it's very, very complementary to what MNOs do today.
Great. Thank you. Unless there are any other questions, I'd actually thank you very much, and actually really brave thing for the satellite operators to do, and it can't be easy putting all those birds up in the sky, and then, it's like build it and they will come kind of philosophy, but thank you. And also for the Wi-Fi piece, again, hopefully, the MNOs are opening their minds to the challenges that they face, and it is collaboration, innovation through collaboration, I think, that'll get us there. But thank you once again, gentlemen.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.